15,000 SS soldiers, 1,400 vehicles, 55 Panther tanks, one of the most feared armoured divisions of the Third Reich, stopped cold by a tin of dirty grease and a 16-year-old girl. This is the true story of the sabotage that crippled the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich and helped save the D-Day landings. April 1944. The town of Montauban, southern France. Das Reich sits in reserve, refitting after 2 brutal years on the Eastern Front. Berlin has positioned it here deliberately, close enough to strike at an Allied invasion on either the Atlantic coast or the Mediterranean. In May, the tanks arrive. 37 Panzer IVs, 55 Panthers, 30 assault guns. When the invasion comes, the plan is simple. Load the armour onto railway flat cars. Ride the rails north. 700 kilometres to Normandy. 3 days, maybe 4. But the Germans have made one mistake. The flat cars, the specialised rail cars that will carry every tank in the division, sit in the yards around Montauban, unguarded, and someone has been watching them for months. His name was Tony Brooks. Code name, Alphonse. A British agent of the Special Operations Executive, and at 22 years old, the youngest network organiser the SOE ever sent into France. Brooks had parachuted into occupied territory in July 1942, refusing to carry a weapon because an ordinary Frenchman caught with a pistol was a dead man. For 2 years he built the Pimento network. Railway workers, clerks, teenagers. By April 1944, he had armed 4,700 men around Toulouse alone. His orders for D-Day were precise. Whatever happens, keep Das Reich off the rails. On the night of June 5th, the warning came from London. The invasion was hours away. Pimento's saboteurs went to work on the unguarded flat cars. Among them a 16-year-old girl named Tetty, her boyfriend, her 14-year-old sister, and a handful of friends. Their weapon wasn't explosives. It was patience and a supply of abrasive grease parachuted in from England. They drained the axle oil from the flat cars and refilled the housings with grease laced with abrasive powder. To any inspection, the rail cars looked perfect. They would run for a few miles, then every axle would grind itself to pieces. June 6, 1944, the Allies storm ashore in Normandy. On June 7th, the order reaches Lamerding. Move Das Reich north, immediately. But when the tanks roll toward the railheads, the plan collapses. The flat cars are useless. The transporters seize up one after another. There is no way to move 50-ton Panthers 700 kilometres by rail. So on June 8th, Das Reich does the one thing panzer commanders dread most. It drives. Tank tracks are built for battle, not for highways. Every kilometre of tarmac grinds them down. Engines overheat. Vehicles break down and are left where they stop. Fuel, already scarce, burns away at a ruinous rate. And the road north runs through resistance country. At the village of Bretonneau, fighters of the Maquis throw themselves at the column head-on. It is a slaughter. 18 of them are killed by the veterans of the Eastern Front. But the pinprick attacks keep coming. A Scottish officer named Tommy McPherson chooses a smarter way. Felled trees across the road, anti-tank mines hidden beneath them. Hours lost, again and again, while engineers sweep every tree line. The division built for Blitzkrieg is crawling. What followed became one of the darkest chapters of the war in the West. Enraged by the attacks, Das Reich turned on the civilians in its path. On June 9th, in the town of Tulle, 99 men were hanged from lampposts and balconies. 149 more were deported to Germany. The next day, June 10th, soldiers of the division surrounded the village of Oradour-sur-Glane and murdered 642 men, women, and children. The village was never rebuilt. Its ruins stand today, preserved in silence, exactly as the division left them. The sabotage had a cost no one had chosen, but the march ground on, and the Allies kept squeezing. On June 11th, British bombers guided to their target by an SAS team operating deep behind the lines destroyed the division's fuel trains at Châtellerault. On June 13th, the lead elements finally crossed the Loire. From that moment, Allied fighter bombers hunted them in daylight, every hour, every road. A journey planned for 3 days had become an ordeal. Das Reich did not arrive in Normandy as an armoured fist. It arrived in fragments battalion by battalion, from June 15th to June 30th. Not until July 10th, more than a month after D-Day, did Das Reich finally fight as a single division. By then it was too late. Instead of hurling the Allies back into the sea in those first desperate days, its units were fed piecemeal into the line, plugging gaps in a front that was already collapsing. The Panthers that were meant to reach the beaches in 3 days took 17 and arrived broken. Tony Brooks was arrested in July 1944 and interrogated in Montluc prison. His cover story held. They let him go. He survived the war, and of the 470 agents Britain sent into France, the SOE's own historian would name him one of the 6 best. The Germans had built a division of 15,000 men, 1,400 vehicles, and the finest tanks in Europe. The Allies answered with railway clerks, teenagers, felled trees, and a 16-year-old girl with a tin of abrasive grease. The Panzers never stood a chance of reaching Normandy on time. They never even made it out of the rail yard.